There are four financial services lined up one after the other, after the other, after the other. Why are the best clients and the best people going to choose to work with me and work for me rather than the other three firms? And so that's the issue every time. And so part of that is I'm not afraid to be different. I'm afraid to be the same. I don't want to seat at somebody else's table. I want to build my own table. And I want to help other people build their own table too. And so, like even like every axiom that people say makes no sense to me all the time. It seems to me like there's this lemming strategy that people follow, and they're doing the things that everybody else is doing, expecting to get extraordinary results. And so that's so as an example, I used to hear people say when I first started, Sean, all I want is a level playing field. And I'm thinking, that sounds stupid to me. I don't want a level playing field. I want to run straight downhill.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of the None of Your Business podcast. Sean and Lacey with you just as we are each and every week. And just like every week, we have some super valuable information for all of our viewers and listeners. This week's podcast is going to be incredibly valuable because it's a spin. So if you saw the guest, or maybe you did a little bit of homework and you're like, oh, okay, I know. Here we go. We're going to talk about like Roth IRAs and 401ks and the stock market. That's not going to be necessarily, or maybe that might fit in somewhere, but it's not necessarily the theme of this week's podcast. Mark Murphy is one of the most intelligent, strategic investing minds that I have ever encountered. We are blessed to be able to do lots of things with Mark that go even beyond just the recipe or the menu of services that he provides to the world. And so we'll get into that a little bit. But one of the things that I love about Mark is he truly is a superhero to entrepreneurs. Right. When it comes to financial planning. So one of the things we do, we get into business, we start to make a lot of money over time, we get excited. But usually when we started the business, we didn't have any plan. We didn't have any thought of what we would do. We just said, I want to make $1 million. Then you made $1 million.
And then you go, what's next? What do I do with my money?
You don't know what to do.
I don't even know what to do now that I have $1 million.
We have worked with clients that have had $3 million in their checking account, just in their regular checking account in the bank. We're like, what are you doing?
And they don't even know how irresponsible that is.
Well, is it irresponsible? We should ask Mark.
I think we should ask Mark. That might be my first question.
And Mark is going to talk to us about the ultimate investment. Yes. Who wants to know what the ultimate investment that you could possibly make is? And Mark Murphy is with us. Let's bring Mark in. Mark, so great to have you with us.
Well, thanks so much, guys. I have to tell you that as you and I have spent a lot more time together over the last couple of years, and then I've got a chance to see you on your podcasts and on your masterminds and workshops. I don't know if we've ever talked about this before, but I handled Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos for about 13 years. And I have to tell you that I think I view them as the state of the art as a husband-wife team who does media together. And I think you guys are just as good. You might even be better. So I think I just think that you guys have just such charisma and such chemistry together, and it's the information's great, but the together, if you talk about synergy, where 1 + 1 equals 2, I think with you 1 + 1 = 4 or 5. So just thank you for having me on the show.
Well, we begin every podcast with the same question for our guests, and we're going to begin with that same question with you. But there's a little bit of an interesting bend. So I've made a few introductions from our friends in our network to Mark. And you know what everybody says? They get back with me and they're like, hey, that guy Mark is the real deal.
Yep.
They all say
like the same thing.
And I always,
so impressed.
But I'm a little bit offended because I'm like, well, did you think I was going to send you to like some
non-real
doofus?
Deal?
What did you think he was going to be?
Yeah.
But Yes, absolutely. I mean, verifiably, everybody says Mark is the real deal. Whether you've met him talking about Indiana University, whether you've met with him talking about your finances, whether you're talking about your business and how you can better your business, whether you came across his book, whether you heard him as a speaker, all these people are like, man, Mark is the real deal. So the first question, Mark, is how do you become the real deal? The way that really what the question is tell us a little bit about your story, because when people tell me that they visited you in your home or they saw you courtside with the New York Knicks or they saw you at an Indiana basketball game, then what conjures up in people's minds is like, well, of course, because Mark's dad probably owns the Knicks and then just gifted him, some tickets. And a lot of times, especially in the entrepreneurial space, we think that people that have made it, they made it easy, that
Mhm.
somebody gifted them the ride. And what we have found on the podcast is that's not been the case yet. So maybe you might be the first. Tell us the story about how your family made you rich.
It's as I know, we grew up dumb and broke in Suffern, New York.
Mhm.
And so I think that the one thing, it's funny story. It's almost seems more like a therapy session than anything else. But I remember I was a freshman in high school, and we mentioned basketball before. I was probably about as a freshman, I was probably 5'4" and about 232 pounds, and I got cut from the freshman basketball team, even though I thought I was a pretty good athlete. And I just worked as hard as I possibly could. I probably ran 1,000 miles that summer. I got myself into the best shape of my life as a sophomore, and I made the basketball team. And I think I was probably like the 15th guy on a 15-man team, made it by the skin of my teeth. And I was probably at sophomore year, I was probably about 5'9" and maybe about 210 pounds or something, 200 pounds. And then by the time I was a senior, I was a starting point guard on a very good team, and I was about 6'2" and 165 pounds. And so the idea is that it allowed me to believe that if I was willing to, the question that always came to me, what was I willing to do that I was not willing, that I was not doing to have what I didn't have? What was I willing to do that I was not doing to have what I didn't have? And basically, was that was the life lesson that I learned, that I've sort of applied in every place in my life. And you also have a level of confidence in yourself, because I think, as fellow entrepreneurs, you know that the number one job of an entrepreneur is to protect his or her confidence. And so the idea is, when you have a roadmap of what's successful, you can then continue to use that strategy again and again and again. And when you put good strategy along with hard work and a little ingenuity, a lot of really good things happen.
Is that something that you still do to this day? Do you ask yourself, what do I need to do in order to have now the next thing? Or is that something that you have shifted and changed through?
I mean, I think there's only five things you can be. You can be bad at something, you can be average or mediocre, you can be good, but good is just good. You can be excellent. But I think the one thing I've noticed from coaching elite people for a long time, and being a financial advisor and a key business strategist and critical thinker to a lot of very, very successful elite people, is that the one thing that I can only determine that they have in common is elite people want to be better tomorrow than they were today. They want to put the company they have, as successful as it is, they want to be able to next year put this year's company out of business. They
Mhm.
want to be better than what they're doing. And they don't do it for the money. They do it because that's what elite people do.
Mhm.
The other thing, Lacey, I would also say is, to me, is like, I think when you're also being your genuine self, you can have unlimited energy, because it takes very little energy to be yourself.
Yes.
If you're a giver, they say there's three types of people. There's givers, there's matchers. I'm gonna do something for you, Lacey, because you're gonna do something for me. Or,
Right.
Sean can't do anything for me, so let's not talk to him. We're matchers. And then there's takers.
Mhm.
And so in the beginning, sometimes takers get ahead, and the givers are sort of at the bottom of the totem pole. But what I think is that when you spend decade after decade, like we have, giving to people and pouring into people, you create this ecosystem of energy of people and an army of people that just want to create a bigger, better future for everybody. And that's why givers long term always will come out on top. And why elite people come up on top, because if you're being yourself, it doesn't take much energy to be you. It takes a lot of energy to be somebody else.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your business for a little bit. You've found tremendous success in your business, and obviously, you've amassed a tremendous bank of knowledge, and people seek your guidance and wisdom. But tell us a little bit about the business journey. Did you start out just 401k and life insurance, or how come you have become this entrepreneurial advisor? How did you fall into that role? Why do so many entrepreneurs look to you for guidance and for advice, especially when it comes to their own finances?
Well, I think one of the best things is I like to think that I have the best research in the world, and not because we don't have a million people outside my door with all kinds of letters from the best schools in the world doing research. I don't mean that. We have that. But when I say we have the best research in the world, it's our clients. And people, when you ask people powerful questions, you ask people the right questions, and you're a good listener, they'll tell you what they want. And I think as somebody who is a key business strategist and critical thinker to entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial thinking people, when they tell you what they want, you'll figure out how to serve that need in elegance and excellence. And that's basically the business that we've had. You try to look at things, and I always kind of question things. And so in my mind, Sean, I wake up every day, and whether it's my business or it's the widget business, the thing that I wake up every day thinking about is there are four. Let's use financial services because that's what I do. There are four financial services lined up, one after the other, after the other, after the other. Why are the best clients and the best people going to choose to work with me and work for me rather than the other three firms? And so that's the issue every time. And so part of that is I'm not afraid to be different. I'm afraid to be the same. I don't want a seat at somebody else's table. I want to build my own table. And I want to help other people build their own table too. And so, like even like every axiom that people say makes no sense to me all the time. It seems to me like there's this lemming strategy that people follow, and they're doing the things that everybody else is doing, expecting to get extraordinary results. And so that's so as an example, I used to hear people say when I first started, Sean, all I want is a level playing field. And I'm thinking, that sounds stupid to me. I don't want a level playing field. I want to run straight downhill. And then I thought, well, that's not good enough. You know what I want to do for myself and everybody that I work with? I want to be in a competition free zone where the only place that person can get that experience is by working with me. I know in your business, for the people that we've worked together, I know the experience that your clients get can only be gotten from working with the Black Diamond Club or working for Quest 7 or Book Yourself Solid or all the entities that you have. You can't get that anyplace else. And that's what makes it unique. And that's what we try to do every day, trying to figure out how to make sure that I don't really believe in competition. I don't think we have competitors out there. I want other people to do well and be successful. But at the same time, I don't believe in competition, but I do believe in differentiation. And I want to make sure that our business and our clients' business have a clear differentiation advantage from everybody else.
I love that, Mark. And I think, one of the things about you is I remember I think it was the very first time actually, Sean and I talked to you together. I walked away from that meeting and we weren't even clients at that point. And you made me feel that same level of experience that you're talking about that you give to your clients before I was even a client. And I think that's a massive differentiator. I think there's so many people out there when it comes to their business, they only want the people that pay them to have the experience. And I think what you're saying is that you love giving people the experience from the moment that they meet you. And I think that that's a very interesting way to think about business. And I hope that people out there think about how can I provide experience before somebody's even my client?
Absolutely. Let's talk about the ultimate investment.
Yes.
So everybody comes to you for investment advice, and you have written a book called The Ultimate Investment. You've written many books. The newest book, The Ultimate Investment. Talk to us about this, because when you talk about the ultimate investment, people are thinking like it must be
Life
precious
insurance
metals
or like,
or
yeah.
oil and gas, or cryptocurrency. What is the ultimate investment for our viewers and listeners?
I would say this, that the ultimate investment is owning your own business. The ultimate investment is being an entrepreneur or having an entrepreneurial mindset. That doesn't mean you have to own a company. It's a mindset more than anything else.
Hmm.
And the thing that is uh, sort of a dichotomy to me is that most people who own a business think they're entrepreneurs, but most of them have bought themselves a job. They're getting paid for what they do, not what they know. They become great artists in their business rather than great CEOs. And I think there's even one more level, because I think great entrepreneurs don't are not CEOs; they hire CEOs. And so ultimately, when you take a look at how wealth is created in this country, and by the way, we manage, as you know, we manage money not with millions with an M, but billions with a B. Um, Most people, you think that, there's only three ways to create wealth. So I've said probably for 30 years, anytime I've ever spoken anywhere, I've said this. And I've said money market, CDs, IRAs, 401ks, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, blah, blah, blah. Most of our clients have some or all those assets. Most of our clients will have some or all those assets all their life. But at best, they're inflation adjusted holding tanks. If Bill Gates was on the phone with us today, he wouldn't say I'm worth $110 billion because of my 401k. So the places where true wealth exists are investing in your business or some other operating company. It's investing in real estate. It's financing deals. I'll leave out divorce and inheritance. That's another way you can create wealth, which we can't control. So the ultimate investment is investing in yourself. And so ultimately, if you don't have a company, it's investing in that mindset of how you think, so you can be in charge. Maybe if you don't have a business, and you can't invest in your company, by investing in your company, you can invest in education, you can invest in a network, you can invest in techniques that will help you get to the next job. And I have an unlimited appetite. I try to keep things very simple, Sean. When you graduate from the Kelley School of Business like we did, to me it's very simple. There's only two things. There's expenses and there's investments. If it's an expense, it's on the chopping block. If it's an investment, I have an unlimited appetite for investment as long as I can get a minimum of a 4 or 5 to 1 return on my money. And the other thing I think with people, because most companies have employees, and what one of my pet peeves is when somebody says to me, my biggest expense is people, is payroll. And I'm thinking, well, if it's an expense, you should fire everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But I really don't think you grow a business, you grow people. So how do you invest in people? And I think one of the things, there's a war for talent now. So the thing that I'm finding, probably the thing I hear most from business owners is, we can't find good people, or we can't find any people at all. So how do we help people win the war for talent so they can create more wealth in their business? That's probably one of dozens of different strategies that you want to focus on to help people create, multi-generational wealth. Remember, Tim Scott, the South Carolina senator, now the presidential candidate, said he went from a slave to the U.S. Senate in 2 generations. I literally believe that anybody can go from broke to a billionaire within 2 generations, and the technology's out there.
Mark, I want to go back to this concept of a business owner and entrepreneur, because I know that you have probably talked to thousands of entrepreneurs in your life. And I'm wondering if there's something that you recognize right away in people and you go, they're not thinking like an entrepreneur. Because I want our listeners out there to be able to look at themselves and say, did I just buy myself a job as a business owner, or am I actually moving in that entrepreneurial mindset in order to grow and get where I'm trying to go? So maybe what you say will help them go, that's how I think. I need to change that. I'd be curious as what you've noticed.
Well, I would say that the first question I would ask people, to me, is, if you went into the witness protection program for 2 years and left your company, would the company be in business? Number one, would it be thriving? And if the answer is not, that you do not, if the answer is to no to that, you don't have a business. You bought yourself a job.
Mm,
You mean they're getting paid for the service that you are providing, rather than what you've created with your brain.
yep.
And so, business owner after business owner, I would say, I don't know, I don't have any statistics on this, but I'm telling you, I think over 95, maybe 98% of business owners are not entrepreneurs. They're people that bought themselves a job. And I think through the work that we do, is you want to slowly unpack that and create something that, it may not happen overnight. Some people can do it right away. Some people, it's more of a gradual process, but you want to get that to a place where you can have earned income beyond normal retirement age. I think there's a couple of things that you want to do. The first thing is, what you also want to do is, the number one thing for me, for an entrepreneur, is if I only had $1 to invest and I own a business, I want to invest that in my money machine or my business. I never want to starve my money machine. I want to feed it. I want to invest in it, and I want to grow my cash flow and grow the value of that business. And then after that, what I'd like to do is I want to also then create another series of assets if my money machine has been fully funded. And I want to create another series of assets that I'm going to call paychecks. And that's a series of assets that will give us either guaranteed or highly reliable streams of income to replace our income in our business. And then I want to have another series of assets where we can spend it, we can save it, we can give it away. But the important thing is, it's not responsible for producing income for our family. So if you have both paychecks and playchecks, you have financial freedom. But I think as an entrepreneur, you want one more level where you can have earned income far beyond normal retirement age, maybe for the rest of your life, maybe passed down to the next generation. And so what I say to people, if you can have EBITDA in your business, and that means profit without you working there, of, let's say, $1 million, that's like having $20 million in the bank earning 5%. So I sometimes get to retirement. In fact, I do. A lot of people call me when they're ready to sell their business. And you might have somebody hypothetically that has $1 million of EBITDA. And that means that they can hire somebody else to be the CEO and take their job and still take $1 million out of the business. And they're going to sell the business for $2 million or $2.5 million and pay tax on that, maybe pay off some debt, as opposed to continue to own the business, own that asset, continue to control it, and take $1 million a year of income for the rest of their life. And so I think the idea is you really want to look at every possibility and probability. And I think so many people are like lemmings and look at it as only one way. And I think what we need to do as advisors is to make sure that everybody's making wise. It's not to protect people, it's to help them make wise choices with their money. It's to give them all of the possibilities that are out there of what's possible. And you talk about people like, first of all, I want to thank you so much for that kind comment about making you feel like a client when you weren't there. But I think one of the many things, Lacey, you and Sean and I have in common is that we believe in people so viscerally that they start to believe it in themselves. We see people not as they are, but we try to encourage them to be to their maximum potential. We see who they can be and what's possible. And I think the idea is that it's that they become attracted and inspired because everybody wants to be the best version of themselves.
Yeah.
One of the things I love about you, usually when I talk to anybody in the financial industry, they have to get everything approved that they say, right? Like I don't know I forget what that's called. We have to get everything
Compliance.
Yeah, compliance. We don't have anything through compliance. But what I love about you is that you tell the truth. You are concerned about giving good information and telling the truth. And so, and I don't know if we have to run this through compliance, but why is it? So that's an interesting take where you're talking about the potential of conserving your business, not selling it, because it's actually worth more to you to have it continue to run and to pay you a paycheck long term. Why is it that that's not heard very often? Why is that not common amongst financial advisors? Why does everybody just try and push everyone into that box of 401ks and money markets and like everything has to fit in this box? Like this is just what we all.
Is that a W-2 box? Is that
Yeah,
an
that's
employee
my
box,
question. Is
or
that just because that's what 9 to 5 W-2 people should do, or is there another reason why is this so new sounding when it's like it's not like you like blew our minds with what you
revolutionary?
said, but it's not said that often. Why is that?
It's funny. I'm always confounded why people, do the things that they do. I think there's lots of reasons for it. I think one is most people don't have access to information or to great people. Oftentimes their interests are not the same as the people who are advising them. Sometimes that the idea to me is, somebody that manages great deals of wealth is, well, it might be better for me if that client sells that business and then has, tens or hundreds of millions of dollars for me to manage rather than them keep that money in that business. And so, I've always had the strategy that there's no right way to do the wrong thing. And if you
Mm.
keep and if you keep giving people the right advice and you keep doing exactly what you would do if you were in that situation, it always comes back to you like not tenfold, but 20-fold, because everybody talks about high trust relationships. And we want high trust relationships. And if you look at your phone this week, I think I probably had 50 people that texted me, emailed me, or called me trying to sell me some product or some service. You probably had at least that many yourself.
Mhm.
So if that's what everybody's doing, I think what you want to be is you want to come through the portal of education and strategy and be different from people, not trying to sell people something, provide them something. And that ultimately, what happens is you no longer become the hunter, you become the hunted in your business. And that people will actually find you and seek you out when you provide that information. And when you start doing the right thing every time, I always say you only get to screw people one time. But the idea is when you do a good job for people, your business just proliferates. It's that word of mouth and with the internet, remember, if you do a good job for somebody, I mean, they'll tell people. If you do a bad job for people, it's all over the internet. They're
Mhm.
trolling you all over the place. They're coming after you, they're complaining you, they're doing all those things. So why not just do the right thing? That's the best long-term strategy always in life. It's always more expensive and always more painful not to do it right the first time.
Yeah.
So why would you even do that? And you got to sleep at night. So why wouldn't you want to be a business where you put your head on the pillow at the end of the night, and you're so proud of the work you've done and the things you've done to help people? I know you guys do that. That's why I think we connect.
I have one more. One of the quotes that I hear repeated most by the people that we work with. So once people have had exposure to Mark, they repeat this quote a ton. Comes up all over the place. So I got to make sure that you say it today. I'm just going to say it for you, and then I'm going to have you talk about it. But you talk about the transition from being paid for what you do
Mhm.
to being paid for what you know. Um, why is that so important? Why do people love that? Why people hear that's another one? They're like,
Oh,
oh my gosh, like now I'm on
yes, I
that
need to
train.
change my thinking.
Why is
Yeah.
that important, and why did they find that so novel? And how do I do that? How do I go from being, in my brick and mortar in the four walls of my office doing the thing to now being paid for what I know?
Well, first of all, I think first of all, I think that one of the things is when you're an entrepreneur, I think failure to me, when I think about failure, I think of that as just one step closer to success. You
Mhm.
know, so many of the things that I did and lost money on and that didn't work in my career happened. But if I didn't do those things, I wouldn't have done other things that have helped me make millions or tens of millions of dollars if I hadn't done those things that failed. And so I kind of use failure as just another form of market research. It just gets me closer and closer to the truth, closer and closer to success. And I also think that it's hard because ultimately you've got to take what you're doing and you've got to replicate it. And as I said, if you could figure out how to add value, if you could figure out how to add value, it's very easy to figure out how to get paid. And I think on the entrepreneurial side, to get paid for what you know, it also requires the ability to not only do it for yourself, but you've got to be able to hire the right people. You've got to be able to create culture. You've got to have what we'll call cash confidence. So you have the ability to invest in the money or invest in the business, because in virtually every business, there's lead behavior, lag results. So you've got to put the money out first. You've got to hire the people. You've got to train the people. You've got to invest in the company. And then it comes back to you. And I think many people are either scared to do it, don't have the resources to do it, or don't have access to people like us to be able to go do it. People like Black Diamond Club.
I gotta make sure that everybody knows how they can get in touch with you. Tell us how we can get our hands on the book. Tell us how people can get in touch with you, learn more about what you and your company is doing. I'm sure tons of people after this episode are going to want to be in the Mark Murphy world.
Well, I would, it's funny. I stay such big picture. I kiss babies, I shake hands, I kiss babies, I build relationships, I close deals, I work on the intellectual property of the firm. I could give you our phone number, I think our website as well. I'm probably not even sure if I know our website, but I would. I think we're at Northeast privateclientgroup.com in Roseland, New Jersey is our corporate headquarters. And our phone number, our corporate phone number is 973-422-9140. But I mean, that's how people would get a hold of us.
Well, and they can find you on markbmurphy.com as well, where it has access for them to order your book. And there's a lot of information about hiring you as a speaker, which, of course, we're going to have you at one of our events. So if they want to engage with you at a different level, I think that's where they could find you.
Well, yeah, that's what I wanted to. I want to invite everybody who's listening. If you want to hear Mark and meet Mark in person, he's going to be speaking at Money Matters, at BDC Money Matters, coming up here at the end of July. So grab your tickets, come out to Indianapolis. Mark went to school at IU Bloomington, so he feels right at home here in Indiana. His lovely wife, Lisa, I think Lucas is coming. And so it's be a tremendous opportunity to meet him, ask questions, and hear him speak, because we're going to put him up on the stage and have him keynote our event and share even more gold nuggets with everyone in attendance. Mark, I want to thank you so much for being with us. I want to encourage everybody to remind everybody, Mark B. Murphy, B as in boy, markbmurphy.com. There you can get your hands on The Ultimate Investment. You can find out about all of the cool things that Mark has going on in his world, plug into his podcast, get into the Mark Murphy world, because it's not 401ks, stocks and bonds and money markets. It's about how to feed your money machine. Then once the money machine is big enough, you're just going to have so much money you don't know what to do with it. Then Mark can help you with all those tools and all those instruments that you need to maximize your money. Mark, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you so much, Sean. And by the way, Lacey, thank you for the save. I probably should. You know what I'm going to take from this. I'm going to learn how to contact us. It's funny you never it's you're funny, you get so big picture you forget about the little stuff sometimes. So but I appreciate that, and thank you guys for all you do. I'm just privileged to be part of the Black Diamond Club world. Thank you.
Yeah. Absolutely killed it. Thank you so much, Mark. And thank all of you for tuning in. Make sure that you tell other people about the None of Your Business podcast. Share this episode with your friends. I'm sure they could benefit greatly to hear Mark and his ideas about your best investment. Listen, if you make those wise investments, it will pay off. And what I loved about this episode, not just for you, but for generations to come. All right, folks, we're going to have to work doubly hard next week to top this week's episode, but we'll give it the old-fashioned try. We'll be back again next week with a brand new edition of the None of Your Business podcast.